end so that at least just to have a familiar face, and also that you can see that I'm a real person. So I'm looking forward to meeting you all, whether in Abuja or in Lagos. We want to ensure that all participants are properly onboarded. So I would like to, once again, on behalf of the Nigerian Energy Support Programme, welcome you to the onboarding session for the Energize Career Fair. This is a pilot career fair, and I would also like to congratulate you for making the shortlist for those who have been invited to attend the career fair. So just to give a little background on NESP, some of you might be well informed of what NESP does for the renewable energy sector. So we are funded by the European Union and the German government. And we work in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Power, where we advise on we actually offer technical support to the government to scale up and to provide an enabling environment for investments in renewable energy and energy efficiency. So in the past years, we've realized the bridge and then capacity gaps in the sector, and realized there's so many opportunities that young people need to be aware of and seize the opportunity. And that is why we went ahead to collaborate with the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Alliance, ably represented here as well on this call, to ensure that there's that feedback loop with young people in the sector through associations. And then we have worked to ensure that this platform would enhance employment opportunities. I mean, we can all attest to the fact that the job market is pretty tough these days. There's so many people out of jobs or not adequately employed where they ought to be. And there's so many companies as well who are looking to hire. So this has given us the opportunity to engage on this pilot. So this is a pilot fair. And we're hoping that with the support that we have on this pilot project, so when I say support now, we're talking about support from our HR consultants, foremost HR consultants, WAVE, who would be taking us through an extensive onboarding that I feel would be very beneficial to each and every candidate here. Some information might be new to you, but due to the extensive experience in the industry on skills development support, they would be able to provide some vital insights, particularly to this event. So just to, if you have not received the information note, we have shared an information note. And this information note contains very important information that we strongly advise that you read carefully to ensure that we have a hitch-free event. It's a one-day event. It's going to be information loaded. So it's an opportunity I think everyone should see the moment to make the most of it. And that is why we have WAVE here supporting us through this. Also, I'd like to mention that a consultant, a very foremost consulting firm as well, is working with us on this. Phillips Consulting. Some of you might have received emails indicating that you would receive links that would be sent to you, because as much as we're providing a lot of information, we'd also like to hear from you on how everything has progressed and where you've had challenges, for any reason, and how we can be of support. Because the idea is to ensure that we take different career fairs more fruitful. So I would like to, before we proceed, I would also like to reiterate that please always ensure that your microphone is muted. It's very important that we key into the topic of today. So to avoid any distractions to your other colleagues who are currently on the call, please ensure your microphone is always muted. Except you have something to say, kindly use the functions that you have to either raise your hand or drop a question in the box, in the comment section. Our colleagues from NESP are also on the call, and we're ready to answer all your questions. So we'd really appreciate that flow of interaction to keep the conversations seamless and to make the most out of this session. So I would like to then move on now. I would, going on to the rest of the call, turn off my camera now just to save the data, because I know that is quite a challenge for some of us now. So I'll turn off my camera. Okay, so just to go over the onboarding note, I think it's still very important. There's some things we'd like to highlight. As we're all aware, the event itself is going to take place, that's for Lagos, because we have a combination of both participants selected for Abuja and Lagos here. We feel it to be of added value, really, for you to benefit from this onboarding, even though for the Abuja fair, it would take place next week, Tuesday. So for the Lagos fair, it would take place on the 5th, which is on Tuesday. And the venue is the Landmark Event Center on the island. So we want to ensure that everyone is properly informed. We will still be observing the COVID-19 protocol. So we'll be making available masks, hand sanitizers. Please, you're encouraged to use that. We also have contact information of people of my colleagues in NESP. The number is indicated there. The names are there. Feel free to approach any of them. And everyone that is invited, please be informed that this is a strictly on invitation, by invitation event. So please, we would like to ensure that this is kept to that where you come as you are, and do not please bring extra friends or just invite people on the whim. Please, we need to ensure that the capacity that we have prepared for is adequately built to serve. So the event duration is from 9 to 5 p.m. and we encourage you strongly to be on time so that we're all seated, everyone gets to be registered, you all have a card, an identification that easily allows you to access the master classes and all. So we have a little networking and welcome tea at the beginning. And then before we have a conference where we have high-level remarks from all the invited guests and partners who will be present. So we invite you to really seize the moment, be on time, settle in on time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of the representatives from the NESP team. The event will be properly branded, so you'll be able to easily identify who to meet for what, and we'll all be on ground to support you. So I do not need to more or less go over so much on what is indicated in the information notes, because I believe that everyone will be able to So in that regard, we also encourage, just to reiterate this part, that when it comes to the engagement with the companies, we're really, really trying to work with time. So we would encourage that those who are facilitating the master classes are also on time. You have the opportunity to ask your questions. There will be an opportunity for follow-on questions in areas where you need follow-on clarifications. For the companies that you will be meeting, I mean, it's pretty much having your interview on the spot. It's a networking opportunity. There's so many opportunities that could come up. So pretty much we just want to re-emphasize on time management. It's very important. The agenda would be shared with you. We really want you to be able to make the most out of this opportunity. So come along with copies of your CVs. I know everyone pretty much has sent in a CV, and we've had a review by the consultants. So they'll be providing some feedback that might require you to go into your CVs, make some changes, and maybe add some vital information, work on your elevation pitches, so that you have you can make the most of that day. So I would like you to also bring your business cards if you have any. I mean, the idea is to carry on the conversations. This job fair is just one step in the right direction, and it is up to you to a very large extent and how the conversations are carried on over. So I would also like to inform you that we'll be taking feedback. Like I said, PCL would be actively trying to get feedback from you. Wave would also be trying to get feedback from you. Please feel free to ask as many questions ahead. And then there'll also be an opportunity to pitch an idea, something that makes you stand out, because you'll be presenting to quite a number of companies. So that opportunity it's called Sharks and Dreamers. We really want to know those who are forward thinking, who have ideas. So bring your ideas to the table and put them out there. You never know where that can lead you to. So I just thought to go over this. So please, again, if you haven't read the information notes, please go back and read it again. So I would continue, but I'd like to find out if we have our colleagues from Wave on the call. Can you confirm so that I can hand over to you in a few minutes?
Hi, Sharon. Hi.
Hello. Good morning.
Obani.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good. Thank you for being here. So are we ready on your side to take off?
Yes. It's already.
Okay. Okay. So do you have any slides to project?
Yes, I
You can.
do. Do I have any? Do I have sharing rights?
Yes, please go ahead if you can share on your side. Makes it easier for you to control.
All right.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. So if you can hear me, please confirm that you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly.
Yes, we can.
All right. Fabulous.
Very clearly.
Okay. So let me just briefly show you my face. Okay, let's see. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Oba and I work with Wave as a training coordinator, and we would be discussing your CV and how to make it look good and attractive. Right. So we went through a couple of CVs and we saw certain things that we need to correct, improve on, and things we need to work on basically. Right. So I'm just going to go into CV Clinic. Because of our numbers, I would have loved to interact with everybody, but I think I'll just turn into a lecture. So everyone, please be present. If you ask for responses in the chat, please respond so I know that you're following. Thank you very much. All right, so we all know what a CV is basically. and I will not be defining that the CV is a curriculum vitae and all that. However, we just want to talk about basic formats first for your CV. So on my screen, you could see the format of a CV. So the CV should actually be formatted with 11 to 12 points. What that basically means is that the size of your fonts basically should not be more than 12, right? 11 to 12, basically. Because we saw a couple of CVs that the fonts were out of place, were beyond 12, were less than 12. So for readability, for the human resource person or person who's hiring to want to engage with your CV, it's essential that your the font size of your CV is at par. And I would like to say before we move on that it is based on research, it has been proven that it takes 7 seconds for a recruiter or anybody to review your CV, right? So what that means is they look through in 7 seconds and they know whether they want to go with you or not, right? So it's essential that your CV is compelling, right? It's attractive, it is beautiful enough for them to want to call you for an interview, right? So in this class, we're just going to talk about the things that you need to do to ensure that that happens, right? And one other thing to properly define is that your CV is a professional document that is expected to meet a professional purpose. And what that means is your CV, you're writing your CV because you want to get a job. Therefore, all the things on your CV must be essential towards getting that job, right? So we saw a couple of CVs that had some information that would not help you get a job, basically, right? And we'll talk about that in a bit. But however, just have to at the back of your mind, it's a professional document, and this professional document is for getting a job. Therefore, every content, every information on your CV should be geared towards getting that job. If you're following, please type yes in the chat. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so moving forward. All right, so your CV should be formatted with the font size 11 or 12. And the font type you should pick should always be either Times New Roman, Calibri, Arial, and the likes, right? So don't do anything very fancy. Don't do anything very artistic, right? So let it be very formal, right? Times New Roman, Calibri, or Arial. All right. So also divide your resume into sections. So there are different sections for your CV, basically. So that means is there is the section for your name and contact information. There's a section for your summary, professional summary, bio, and all of that. Then there's a section for experience. There's a section for education. There's a section for skills, certifications, and the likes, right? So it's essential that your CV is in that section, right? So they should just like think about writing a paragraph. So there should always be, it should be properly spaced and uniformed, right? Also use bullet points when you're talking about, when you're listing basically. So for example, you're listing your experience, you're listing your skills, you're listing your certifications, right? Those things should be bulleted. So have bullet points basically. And also those bullet points should be uniform, right? Uniform, very uniform. So don't use 3 different designs on one CV. So if it's the dot you're going to use, stick with the dots. If it's the little box you're going to use that little box. So don't use 3 different kind of bullet points on your CV, right? Also be consistent with your dates, right? The date format. So if you're using 11/2018, which is November 2018, stick with that. Or if you're going to write your November in full and in letters, November 2018, basically. Right? So make sure you are sticking with the uniform format. So one beautiful thing about the CV is that it has to be uniform. If there are disparities in the things you're writing, some employers can be very, very, let me use the word uniform, let me put it that way. So they like things the way it's meant to be. So if there's a disparity, there's something scattered, there's something is far out from standards, they would not even consider some CVs. All right, so it's essential you have a standard format for your CV. Secondly, use a single or 1.15 line spacing. So because you're trying to make your CV uniform, right? So make sure the spacing between each section and each line is not too wide, right? So single line spacing. I know some of us might have heard of single line spacing, double line spacing. So it's advisable you stick with single line spacing. Also, you could add an extra space before and after each section, right? So that there is equal spacings in your CV. Next, don't use photos on your resume, right? And I think that is job specific. So if you're looking for a job in the creative sector, right? So maybe you're a graphics designer, maybe a web developer, a software engineer, right? Those kind of things can fly there. But by standards, it's not essential for you to have your picture on your CV. You just take in space, right? Okay. Also, make sure the format in which you are saving your CV is, so some people want Microsoft Word document, some people want PDF. But by standard, it should be PDF. But if it is requested that you submit in Microsoft Word document, you can actually submit your CV in Microsoft Word document. But however, by standard, if it's not requested, make sure you send your CV in a PDF format. In a PDF format. All right. So moving forward, we're talking about the various sections on your CV. And I think I would like to get responses in the chat. So we've heard many people talk about what should be on their CV, what should not be on their CV. So I'd like anybody to just put in chat, what are the things that you think that should be on your CV? Anybody, if you just type in the chat, what are the things you think should be on your CV? Work experience, thank you. Any other one? Biodata, okay. Any other one? Qualifications, okay. Certifications, accomplishment, tertiary education. All right, thank you. Email address. All right, fantastic. All right, so so there are a couple of things that should not be on your CV. And I think most times we see people adding some information that could, disqualify them from getting a job. For example, you have your gender. Some people talk about having biodata, and they talk about, oh, add your gender to your CV, add your marital status, state of origin, date of birth, your age. All that information is not essential on your CV. And what we found out over time is that some employers use those information against applicants. So what I'm trying to say is, so if they want to hire a male engineer and you put that you are female on your CV, sometimes they cut the person out, right? So if it's essential that you don't put those information. So your age, your gender, marital status, because they could be biased and they could pick, oh, we don't want someone that is married that will get pregnant and leave the job and get, 5 months leave for maternity leave, right? All of those things are biases that some people have, which is by law illegal, right? So it's essential that you bypass those things by omitting all those information that are necessary, right? So just stick with the 7 on your screen: name, contact information, summary and objectives, work experience, education, skills, and certifications. Right, so I don't need to explain name now. Your name is just your first name and your last name. So it's advisable that your first name comes first and your last name, then your last name. So what that means is that if your surname is Oladipupo, Don't write Oladipupo before you write your first name. It's advisable you write your first name before your last name, because they want to meet you, not the name you got from your father. So just stick with your first name and your last name, because in the corporate world we relate to one another on a first name basis, right? On a first name basis. So make sure it's your first name before your last name. Now, when including contact information as well, there are a couple of things you could add. So your location, your phone number, your email address, and you could add your LinkedIn profile. All right. So now concerning location, because of the insecurity in the country, most times it's advisable not to add your house address. So it could be the area where you live. For example, I live in Lagos. So you could just write Yaba, Lagos. Or if you are in Ikeja, Lagos. Right? So just maybe the area and the state. Right? Then you can write your phone numbers. At least it's a working phone number in case they want to call you, and your email address that is also functional. And then the last thing is your LinkedIn profile. Right. So the next thing is summary and objectives. Right. Summary and objectives. So when writing a summary and objective, I know your summary and objective is the first paragraph that most people have on their CVs, describing themselves, their work experience, what they are aiming for, right? So it's advisable if you're entry level, you don't have experience, right? Things that you could add to your CV, to your summary rather, it could just be your skills, the skills that you have, and your career goals. For example, you could say you are, and I think it's very, very cliche nowadays. People are just saying, oh, I am an energetic young man who is seeking to work in an environment that fosters growth, right? So that is quite cliche, right? How many of us have that on our CV? If you have that on your CV, type yes. If you have that on your CV, type yes. So someone just crafted something for you, and it's just there. Right. So when you want to write your summary or objective, it's essential that it is personal to you. Make sure it's personal to you. Make sure it's real. That if I wake you up tomorrow morning and I ask you a question and you're able to answer it, you get to see what it is really, really. What's your objective? What's objective in this organization? Right. Now, for those persons who have sufficient experience, who are not new in the field, who are not new on the job, basically, your experience could your objective should contain these four things on the screen. One, your experience level, your lead qualification, your most relevant accomplishments, and the position you want. So let me quickly show you an example. So here is a civil engineer's summary. So a civil engineer with 6+ years of experience completing private and public infrastructural projects, possess a BSc in civil engineering from the University of Ibadan, seeking to leverage project management expertise and leadership abilities in the role of senior civil engineer. So if you look through this example, you see the 4 parts that we discussed earlier. So his experience level. So he has 6 years of experience completing private and public infrastructural projects. You see his lead qualification, civil engineering, BSc in civil engineering. Now, if you have an MSc, it could be an MSc. If you're part of COREN, you could have that in your summary. And the next thing he added is the position he wants, right? He's seeking to leverage all of these skills and his abilities in the role of a senior civil engineer, right? So this is the best way to craft your summary/objective. So what is your experience level? Your lead qualification. So your lead qualification could be educational qualification, it could be a certification, it could be the fact that you're part of an association or an award or an accomplishment of something of such. You could also hide your most relevant accomplishments or an achievement. What did you do in your previous organization? What award did you receive? That is relevant. Now that's relevant to the job you are trying to get. Relevant to the job you are trying to get. And the position you want. So make sure you always connect everything in the last sentence towards the position you want. All right, if you are following, please type following in the chat. If you are following, please type following in the chat. All right. So the next thing is work experience. So how do you add your work experience on your CV? Now, before I even go to work experience, I saw a couple summaries in the CVs that we received. And I saw a lot of sentences, like 5 sentences, 6 sentences, too many information, right? So what's essential is, I would say if you have experience, you should go between 2 to 4 sentences. And if you are new on the job, 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 sentences, right? So that you do not add irrelevant information because you want to fill your CV up, right? So let's endeavor to stay within our what's our abilities, what is real for us, right? Don't lie on your CV actually. Right. So the next thing is work experience. So the first thing in writing experience is start with the most recent job. So that means is if you're currently hired, that would be the first experience. That would be the first experience on your CV. For example, let me see if I have one up here. All right. For example, you are still working at your present organization. That's the first experience that'll be there. The next one will be the one you were working before you came to where you were working. Right, so it has to be working backwards. So you're writing your CV backwards from the recent to the oldest. From the recent to the oldest, right? So you don't write from the oldest to the recent. So if you write from the recent to the oldest, people begin to see your growth process and what you have built over time. I remember we said that it takes 7 seconds for every recruiter, every hiring manager to go through your CV. So it's essential that you put what is necessary for you to get the job. So, and that is where are you now? The most recent job, right? The next thing is to, in your experience, you talk about your position, the previous organization where you worked, and how long you worked there. And the dates is very essential because it shows how much experience you have in that job role. For example, if you're a site engineer for 1 month, they might believe you don't have sufficient experience, right? So that's why we advise people who go through our training programs to, build the experience in a place for a year, minimum of a year, right? And that is sufficient to convince anybody that, oh, he has experience on the job, right? So if you're job hopping from one job to another, and you add it to your CV, you must have sufficient explanation to back up why you were job hopping, right? So when adding information, your experience information in your CV, it's essential that you are able to defend everything you put up there, right? It's essential you're able to defend everything you put up there, right? Also, under each job, make sure you have at least 3 bullet points of your achievements. Now, we'll talk about an achievement is, right? Because some persons on their CV just talk about the things that they did rather than the things that they achieved. And we've seen that the job landscape now, people are hiring for people who are high achievers, goal-oriented, result-oriented, rather than people who just come and do the routine job. right? So an example of a duty would be I was responsible for doing X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. However, an achievement could be I did this and this was the result of what I did. I was able to institute this policy which saved the organization money and the likes, right? So organizations now are looking for people who have achievements, who are able to achieve something on the job, not someone who just keeps doing the routine job and just not growing, not providing any impact, not providing any results for the organization. So now I want to talk about how to add achievements to your CV. How to add achievements to your CV. Right, so instead of saying I did XYZ, I did this, I did that, I did that, or I was responsible for this, I was responsible for that, we're going to talk about how to make sure your CV is containing all of the achievements on the job, right? So an achievements-based CV basically focus on what you did and the results of what you did and how it positively impacted the organization. What that means is, for example, you took up the role of a site engineer, and as a site engineer, you did a couple of things, right? You did a couple of things that must have helped the organization, right? So what you're trying to do is tell us, how did you help the organization? What was the result that this brought about for the organization? What did the organization gain from your being in that organization, basically, right? So we're moving from a place where we are shifting from what you normally do, just writing out your job description, to a place of this is my job description and this was the result of me doing my job description for the organization, right? So some people's achievements could be that they help, save the company money, helps, what's it called? Raise money for the organization. It could be that they implemented safety policies that, save the organization from many governmental infractions. All of these things are achievements towards you and your work in your organization, and it shows that you are you take initiative. It shows that you are able to solve problems. It shows that you are productive on the job, right? Okay, so I want us to look at these two examples and answer the question, which one would you be attracted to, right? Is it the first one or the second one? I'd like to see our responses in the chat. Is it the first one or the second one? Because there are two items on my screen. So which one will you be attracted to, the first one or the second one? The second, all right? The second, right? Because the second actually conveys positive outcomes, right? Positive outcomes. It conveys positive outcomes. It conveys result. It shows that you are doing something that is profitable. You're not just collecting salary at the end of the month, but you are being profitable to the organization, right? So the first one says I was responsible for the company's filing system, all right? And and today everybody will ask, so the next question is so, right? The recruiter will ask so, right? So what to properly do is just streamline to add a result. What was the result of what I did, which was what the second point was talking about. I streamlined the company's filing system and saved the company 6 million naira in costs, right? So everybody will be attracted to the second one because it seems like the second person knows what he or she is doing, right? So one of the benefits of achievement-based CV is that you are showing that you are result oriented. It's showing that you are a person of impact. It shows that you are goal oriented and result oriented, right? So question on what kind of achievements should I include? One, do not include personal achievements. So I've seen persons who said, on the job, I learned to use this kind of software. I learned to use this kind of package. I learned how to be adaptable. I improved my communication skill, blah, 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 right? That is not what a recruiter is looking for, because they are hiring you to come and do something in the organization and help them. Therefore, they are asking you questions about how you would actually improve their organization as well. So your personal achievements do not carry weight. Irrelevant achievements also do not carry weight. So what you should also talk about is the positive impact and contribution to your employer's business. Now, how do you write your achievements, right? So we're going to do a quick example, right? So we're going to talk about job description and requirements. Now, every time you're writing your CV, the one thing you need to do is you need to tailor your CV to the job you are writing for, right? Remember, your CV is purposeful. It's a professional document for a purpose, to land you a job. Therefore, you must connect everything in your CV to that job. You must connect everything in your CV to that job. So we're going to be talking about job description and job requirements, because every time you're applying for a job, the first thing you are faced with is the job description and the requirements, the job description and the requirements. If you're following, please type following in the chat. If you're following, please type following in the chat. So the first thing you are faced with is job description and requirements. And I'm going to do an example now with the job description and requirements of a site engineer. All right, great. We have people who are following, right? So now this here shows the job description of a site engineer, right? The job description of a site engineer. Now, what is expected of you in the organization when you get in it? The first one is to organize materials and ensure sites are safe and clean, prepare cost estimates, and ensure you get the point, right? So when you're writing your CV, you're writing your CV to meet all of these individual needs, meaning that you would look at the job description, then you look at your past, your previous work experience. Have you been able to do any of these things? Right? If you've been able to do any of these things, you begin to tick them off and cross them off. Yes, or you begin to tick them off. Oh, I've done this before. I've done this before. I've done something that looks like this before. I've done this before. I've done that. I've done that. Oh, I've not done this before. Or you. So it just sometimes you need to take time to sit down and think about these things, right? And I think we're going to do our CVs. We do our CVs and come bring them, for the job fair, right? So you need to take time and sit down. Take time, sit down, and look through the job description. So have I done this before? 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 Have I done this? Have I done this before? And when you find out that you've done these things before, you begin to highlight. Those are the things that you're going to put in your CV for that job description, right? So, like I said earlier, your every CV should be tailor-made or should be custom-made for every job. So don't design one CV and send it to 10 job openings. So 10 job vacancies. Don't design one CV and send it to different vacancies, because different job roles have different job descriptions, right? So it's essential that you tailor your CV down to meet the requirements and the descriptions for that job. And the best way to do is to analyze the job description. And basically, when you find out that, oh, for this site engineer job, in my previous work experience, I have done all of this, then you begin to impute them. You need to take note of them as well. The same thing for job requirements, my second screen. So they're asking, do you have a bachelor's degree in engineering, construction, or anything similar? Right? If you do, that's something that you begin to take note of. Do you have a driver's license? Yes. Do you have an experience? Yes. Do you have all of these things? When you find that you have all of these things, you take note of them, right? And make sure you analyze them for the different work experience you have. For example, you work in 3 organizations or 4 organizations. Check all those 4 organizations and check, have I built experience over time or built capabilities over time in these job descriptions, in this job requirement? And if the answer is yes, now you need to take note of those things, because you're going to just for your draft, just take note of those things, right? Now, to craft your achievements, you now begin to take your job description one by one. So, for example, if your first work experience now is maybe at a construction company, let me just, for example, construction company, right? Now, what you do is you just write the name of the company. I'm going to share with us a CV format right about now. I just highlight what it should look like. Okay. If you can see my new screen, please type screen in the chat box. If you can see my new screen, please type screen in the chat box. Just type screen, screen, screen. If you can see my new screen, IK says you can see my screen. All right, so you can see my new screen. Fabulous. All right, so this is a basic CV format. So you see your name, contact info. All right, I think this should not be there. All right. Okay. So summary and experience. Now, so the first thing when you're writing your work experience is your company name, the location. So for example, if the organization is, let me say, you worked at a structural design company, let me say REEEA Affairs, right? And it's located in Lagos, REEEA Affairs, Lagos, right? Then right on that same line, you write the month you started, the month you ended, the month and year you started rather. So the month and year you ended, right? Then below that, you write a brief description of the company. And this is just let us know what kind of company it is, because some organizations do not tell you what kind of company it is. Right? I remember one time I applied to what's it called? A structural design company. I think that was in 2015, and it was Etearo. I think Etearo, yes, in Ibadan, right? So Etearo, the name is just Etearo, right? You will not know that it's a structural design company, right? So for some person that might not know Etearo, what you need to do is now write a brief description, right? It's a structural design company. If you can't see my screen, I'm assuming it's a network connection. it's a network connection, right? Because I think other persons can see the screen. So you could just try to move around to get better reception, right? So you write a brief description of the company. The next thing is, what's your job title, right? Below that next line, what's your job title? So were you the site engineer? Were you the site assistant? Were you the structural designer? Whatever you are, your job title comes to the next line. Now, the main focus, which is achievements, right? Achievements. Now, the achievement then comes next. Now, your achievement should be at least 3, right? And I believe it should be more than 3 because we have quality experience. From the CVs I've seen, everybody seems to have quality experience, right? For persons that might be new to this space, maybe just finishing school, at least 3, right? At least 3 entry-level job roles, at least 3, right? However, how do you write achievement? Now, let's go back to my previous screen, and we'll talk about the first thing to do when writing your achievement. Right, the first thing to do when writing achievement is to talk about know what you did, right? So from your job description, you will see it says organizing materials. So that is the action word. So I've seen people who on their CV they say I did this, and you're just looking to see I. So it's advisable you take out that I and start with the verb. What is the past action verb? Basically, what's the past action verb, right? Take out the I. If you have I on your CV, I did this, I did that, I arranged this, I did that. So take out the I. What you should start with is your past action verb, right? Past action verb. So you see here on the job description, it says organizing materials. So you start with organized materials and ensured sites are safe and clean. So it should be in past tense as well. So don't tell me organizing. Organizing is present continuous, right? It should be in past tense. Organized materials and ensured sites. Now, you might say, why is this essential? Well, you're going to work in an organization that wants to know if you have great writing skill and you have great communication skill. So if there seems to be that you cannot write, your tenses are bad, your grammar is terrible, that is something that might be a red flag for the recruiter, right? So ensure that you write in past tense: organized, prepared, provided, diagnosed, negotiated, right? And there are many past action verbs. So find out what was the activity you did. Did you design? Did you draw? Did you approve? Did you initiate? Did you institute? Did you implement? Did you manage? So find out the verb that properly describes what you did, right? And there's a list of verbs that I just found up here: accelerated, achieved, awarded, contributed, decreased. All of these are examples of past action words that could start your achievement, right? Start your achievement, start your achievement. So make sure it's starting. Don't start with the I, or start with something that is present to continuous. Accelerating, improving, all those are not essential. Write in past tense. Write in past tense. Write in past tense. So Akinwale has a question. Do I seem to describe a well-known company in my work experience section? No. So if the company is well-known and we know what they do, right? You don't need to tell us a brief description of what they do, right? So if it is not well-known, you have to tell us, right? You have to tell us, right? If they are well-known, like an MTN, like an Airtel, or like a Shell, like an ExxonMobil, those are organizations that we know what they do, right? But if you have one that says something and sons, we don't know what something and sons do, right? So it's essential that you stick with. It's essential that you give us a description when we do not know what they do. But when we know what they do, you could omit that part. All right. So my verbs are on the screen: accelerated, achieved, awarded, contributed. Okay. All right. So moving forward. So also one other thing you need to do is quantify your achievement. Now your achievement is contains 2 things: what you did and what was the result of what you did, right? What you did and what was the result of what you did. Let me show you a brief example. Okay, now this is the example on the screen. So it says, the first one says, supervised 18 project employees, including in-house external contractors and subcontractors, right? So he told us what he did, right? He told us what he did. Now, it's essential to talk about what you did and the result of what you did. Now, sometimes some persons cannot measure the result of what they did. However, one way to ensure that your achievement stands out is adding numbers. For example, this one, we cannot accurately measure the result of supervising 8 project employees. If he wants to measure it, he would say it was effective, and that's one of the things I see on people's CV. It was effective, it was efficient, and the likes. However, what you could do is just add a number, right? Add a number that gives a brief description of what you did. So you supervise 18 project employees, and that's a big deal. Supervising one person is a lot of work. Now you're supervising 18 people, that's quite outstanding, right? So in quantifying your achievement, it's essential to add whatever number you can add. So percentages, did you increase sales, increase efficiency, increase customer base, right? Money, did you work within a budget? Did you work below? Did you spend less than was budgeted, right? Did you save money, right? How much did you save, right? Did you meet time? Did you save time? All of that, right? So you talk about what the results that you made. You could also quantify the result that you actually produced. Let me put it that way. The result that you brought about, you could also quantify it in numbers. So, so we cut down cost by 50% to save the company this amount of money, blah, 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 right? All of those things are good to give a proper context for your achievement, right? So like the examples here, attended meetings and discussed project details with clients, contractors, asset owners, and stakeholders, right? Train 3 new employees to take over similar projects and aid company expansion, right? Performed drafting according to specifications, ensuring compliance with all project QA procedures and requirements, right? Inspected inventories and prepared orders for civil projects in line with budgeted figures, averaging 2 million naira, right? So you can see from the example that I started with a past action verb: supervised, attended, trained, performed, inspected. Those are essential, right? They not tell us what you did, right? This is what you did. Because, like I said, some persons can have results, some persons might not have results, right? But results also just make your achievements look grand, look good, look exciting, right? Look attractive, right? So if you have results for your achievement, you could add results as well. However, make sure your achievements are things that you did and things that aided the organization, right? Aided the organization. Now, for those persons that think that they don't have achievements, what you need to do is you do have achievements, right? What you need to do is, like I said, is sit down, think, just look back at your previous experience, look back at the things that you've done in the past, and ask yourself what positive difference you made to the organization. Review the feedback that you might have gotten from people, appraisals, from performance reviews, quality feedback that you got from colleagues, from your senior colleagues in the organization. All of those things can be a pointer or an angle to help you to draft your achievement, right? So everybody has an achievement, whether you know it or not, you have an achievement. So all you need to do is spend time. And I will say again, writing your CV, you need to spend time writing the CV, right? So the next thing after work experience is your education. Now, some persons argue, should my education come before my experience? Should my experience come before my education? Whichever. So I always tell people, which one do you think is strong enough to attract the recruiter's attention or to get the recruiter's attention? What I'm trying to say is, for example, if I schooled in Harvard and I just finished school from Harvard, I will put my education before my experience. However, if I have quality experience with Shell, but I schooled in, let me say, a school in Nigeria that might not have so much, it's maybe at a school in University of Oyekiti or University of Oyekiti, something of such, right? So my experience carries more weight than my education. Therefore, it is essential I put my experience first. But if my education has more weight than my work experience, I'll put my education first, right? And if both of them carries weight, whichever one you want to put first can come first, right? So the argument which one to come first, is the answer is which one carries weight, which one is more attractive, which one would get the attention of a recruiter. Remember, it takes 7 seconds for every recruiter to review your CV. Therefore, only the essential things, only the important things should be on your CV. Now, so in your education, more or less start like the way we did our achievements, start with the most recent or your current education level. So if you have an MSc, put the MSc first, then your BSc. And we always advise people to just add 2, right? So if you have an MSc, put the BSc. If you have a BSc, put your BSc and your SSc. Right? So MSc, if you have like 3 MScs, you could just put all 3 MScs, but make sure your education is also in line with the job role. For example, you have a master's in education and you have a master's in another field, right? Or a postgraduate diploma in another field. It ensures that the education you are putting there is in line with the job role you are applying for. Remember, we tailor our CV to the job need, to the job demand, or to the request, basically from the job description and the job requirements. All right, so follow it on. So let me show you an example of how your education should look like. See? All right, if you can see my new screen, please type screen in the chat box. If you can see my new screen, please type screen in the chat box. If you can see my new screen, please type screen in the chat box. So I know you're following. All right, great. So education here, you see what you write is your school name, the location, right? So if you
Hello, sir. We can't hear you, sir. Hello. Please, we cannot hear you, sir.
Hello, Bonnie. Can you unmute? I think we're trying to figure out where the noise is coming from, and then I think everyone is muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, sorry about that. Is this better?
Yes, much
All right,
better.
please, when did you stop hearing me?
I think just when you were confirming, if you could see your second screen, and then shortly after.
Okay, all right. Yes, I've been talking. All right, thank you very much. So, as I was saying, your education should contain the name of the school that you studied in. So, if it is ABU Zaria, right? ABU Zaria, right? And the year that you studied there. So, if you are still studying there, for example, you were still studying, maybe you're doing your masters, you could write in view. One of the questions you need to answer is, will I be able to get this job while studying my master's, right? Will they disqualify me because I'm doing my master's? So that's a question that you need to think about, right? Maybe they want someone who is not in school, not be, have to go to school during the weekend because some masters might be part-time, right? So it's a conversation of, it's just you thinking, right? Weighing the options, right? You don't know. Sometimes it might not be in the job description, right? Maybe they want you to travel and you may be traveling for weeks. So you need to just think about it. Think about it, right? Think about it. So I don't have an answer to that, but think about it. But what I would say is, if you want to take the risk, you can. But because if you don't put it there, it's almost like you're lying, right? So I would advise you put it and just see how it goes, basically. Someone's asking a question: is it necessary I put my grade, especially when it is of excellent performance? Well, I would say yes if you have a first class grade, right? You could have if you have the first class, you could put that there. But nowadays that people are stereotyping on in Nigeria. Can anybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Now that people are stereotyping on whether the education in Nigeria is quality, right? People might not value that anymore. But you can put it there if you have quality education. What I mean? Quality grade. You're a first class student. You can put that there in your education, right? So, like I said, you could have two lines for your education. It could be an MSc and a BSc. If you have two MScs, you could put two MScs and your BSc, right? Yeah. So one thing I've seen people do is they put their primary school leaving certificate, right? That is not essential. That is not essential on your CV. So take that out to just taking space. Don't put your primary leaving school certificate on your CV. That is not essential, right? Not essential. Let's go back to the slide. Okay. All right, so the next thing is skills. So there's skills on your CV. Now there are two categories for skills. There are soft skills and there are hard skills. Soft skills and hard skills. Soft skills and hard skills. And soft skills are basically what we call transferable skills. All right, soft skills. Okay. Please, can you hear the noise in the background? I want to confirm.
Yes, we can actually hear a choir, a little choir.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, there's a primary school beside our office.
No problem, I understand.
All right. So soft skills are transferable skills. Basically, these are skills that you can move from job to job. For example, communication is not job specific, it's a universal skill. Problem solving is a universal skill. Negotiating is a universal skill. Adaptability is a universal skill. Critical thinking is a universal skill. So there are universal skills that are essential in every sector. So whether you're going from oil and gas to engineering, to accounting, to finance, to the trade education sector, all skills that you can use in every sector are called soft skills. Now, hard skills are sector specific. For example, if you are in the tech industry now, programming languages are essential for you. Maybe you need to know for web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or Python, data analysis, packages and lights, right? Soft skills, hard skills rather, are job specific. Job specific. For example, if you want to work maybe in engineering space, you might know how to use AutoCAD, or some persons if you're working in an organization that uses statistics, you might need to know some of those statistical softwares. There's also specific skills that are essential in those jobs, basically. So think about it. What are the hard skills that are essential in this job? So if you check your job description, check job requirements, you'll find the hard skills that are there. And those are the hard skills you're meant to highlight in your job, in your CV, right? Those are the skills you're meant to highlight in your CV. So always read carefully your job description and job requirements. Read them carefully, right? So you find out the skills that they need and the skills that they want. Now ask yourself the question before you add it. Do I have these skills? Because some persons could just say, oh, this is what you want. Let's just put it that I have it, right? Also, do not be afraid to apply for jobs that you don't have sufficient skills for, sufficient, what's it called? Okay, please pardon me. I think I'm going to move. All right, I think this is better now. Okay, so I was saying that do not be afraid to apply for jobs that it looks like you're unqualified for based on the job description and the job requirements. The thing is this. Everybody expects you to grow on every job, right? Nobody expects you to be a Superman, right? And if their onboarding system in the organization is great, they should be able to coach you on the things that are essential for you to be successful on that job. So do not shy away from applying for a job that seems like it's beyond your reach. Just give it your best shot. Just include the things that you have and the things that you can do, the things that you've done in the past as well, and that will be sufficient, right? Do not hold back your your job applications, basically, right? So basically, the next thing now is to talk about certifications. Now, certifications, I think that's basic. I saw a lot of certifications in our CVs, which is good. Now, there's a difference between certifications and taking an online course. And that's one thing that we need to evaluate, right? So taking an online course is different from taking an online certification course, right? So if you go to Udemy, you took an online course, that's not a certification, right? Certification means that you're certified by a body. For example, PMI certifies people for project management, right? I think there's another one called Prince, they certify you. So Agile as well. So there are organizations that certify you, ATD, I think there's another one, HSC, I think. So those certifications are what you call certification. But if you took an online course, you learned something online, just take that and put it under education, right? You learn something, right? So if you took a course on Coursera, you took a course on what's the other one? Can't remember. On Coursera and all those other learning platforms, and it's not a certification course. It's not stated that it's a certification course. What you need to do is put that under education, right? Certifications mean that they certify you that you are able or you're a professional in this particular field, right? If that is clear, please type clear in the chat box. If that is clear, please type clear in the chat box. If that is clear, please type clear in the chat box. All right, so last thing, I'm just going to run you through the CV format, and this is because I want you to see what it looks like, because I saw a couple of CVs that seem to be scattered, right? So the goal is for you to see what it should look like, how uniform and how neat it should be, right? For example, you see this on my screen right now. So the name, contact information, address, email address as well, and LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profile as well, right? So you can see that on the screen, basically. Right, and so your summary also, you see that it's meant to come under here as well, right? Your experience, company name, location. So you can also just look at how neat it is, right? So the line spacings are not too much. You see that some things are in bold. Now, for example, the name of the location and the dates you work there is in bold. The achievements, the heading for achievements is in bold. You see that the date is at the extreme end, extreme far right. The name of the company is at the extreme far left, right? So all of these are just examples on how you can structure your CV, how you can structure your CV. Education as well, you see that some things are in bold, some things are not in bold, right? And I'm hoping to be able to share this with you. I don't know how I will, but this is basically what it's meant to look like. Right? So your certifications can come after your education, skills and abilities also. What skills do you have? Hard skills and soft skills, right? You can't see my screen. Oh, it's not legible. Let me try to increase the size. It's 125, good. Let's see, 150. Okay, let me also try to view full screen. Okay. All right, is this better? So what font size can you use for the heading? I would advise you use a 14. 14. So for the headings, so this is, yeah, summary is 14. You can use a 14, right? So the text of the body could be 11 and 12. Headings can be 14. But for your name, your name could be 14, 16 upward, right? It should be legible, right? It should be legible. So any other questions before I think I'll just take questions now because I'm done. But what's most important is that your CV looks neat, right? Very, very neat, very, very neat, very, very neat. And it's important. And I'm stressing the word very. It should be very, very neat, because some people like me who like structure and order, if I see that something lacks structure and order, I would just, my mind will just shut down and I'll not look at it again, right? So it's essential that your CV here is structured, well placed. There's uniformity in space, uniformity in words, uniformity in the letters, and also avoid grammatical errors. If you are struggling, or if you've written your CV rather, make sure you hand it over to somebody to help you to review it, right? So I'm going to take questions now.
Okay,
Before I
so
move on.
before you go on, I think there were some questions you might have missed probably during the overall presentation. So I'll just go over them briefly and then take the most recent ones. I can also see some hands
Okay.
coming up. Yeah. So what they have mentioned or asked is, for the job fair, would there be openings with job description, which we can tailor or CVs around? I think that's what we're trying to ask. So what we have really is the brochure, and it has information on the various job openings, but the job description would be more or less given to you by the company. So we're just hoping that with job openings, we can kind of have you close enough to current CV and preparation. So they've also asked for the presentation that you just shared. So hopefully we'll be able to send it to them along with this recording. And then I think the very first template where you sent where you shared that structure, I think the question was asked about, does the template have to be strictly in this order? So I'll hand it over to you to answer that. So I think it was the first 2-3 slides or so when you were asking about what needs to be on the CV. So in response to this question, Obanyo, are you there?
Okay. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay.
So they wanted to know if the formats that you shared, I think in the beginning, the very first bullet points that you shared, if it strictly needs to be in that order.
Okay. So let me try to find that slide because I shared, I think, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think it's the first slide.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's not necessarily cast in stone. So I'm assuming it's this slide, right?
No, I think it's the next one. Because when the question came in, it was when you had those first few bullet points. It's the next one.
I think I need to speak as well.
I think it's this one. Please, could you kindly mute your microphone, please? There's some noise coming in so that we can address these questions. Thank you. Obanu, please, over to you.
All right, so it's not cast in stone. So it's not about this order, right? So this order is just preference to me. All right, so name and contact information, surely those are things that should come first. Right, so summary objective, they also could come first. I think that should also come first. So I've seen first-person CVs that after their summary, they add skills, and you talk about the education and work experience. So the question is putting your best foot forward. I think that's the answer to the question. Putting your best foot forward. So which of these components best sells me and would allow the recruiter, the person who's going through my CV, to invite me for an interview? Like as I gave the example of, if you study in Harvard, your education should come first, really. Anybody who is a graduate from Harvard is classified on a different level. So it just depends on what's my best foot. What's my best foot? Do I have a great experience that could catch the attention of this employer? Or is it the skills I've developed or certifications and the certifications that I've joined? Will that be a better catch for the employer? Right, so it's basically not cast in stone, but just define what is my best foot that I'm going to put forward.
Okay, so I think, thank you for that. We have a couple of more questions. I can see some hands raised. We get to you shortly. So the question is, how does one include an online course in his education? So I'm not really sure if this course is ongoing or if it's completed, but pretty much the question is just, how do you probably list out an online course you have in your education? let me also ask the next question because it's closely affiliated with that. It says, does that mean that if I do an online course on Oracle and even sit for the exam, I can still add this, I can still add it as certification? So, Vani, did you get that question?
So the first question is, how do I add an online course to my CV, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'll just start from there. So just add it to your education. For example, what platform hosted the course, right? Now, for example, if it's a course that you took on Udemy, you could just write, the first thing would be the name of the course. So for example, you took a course in web development, so just write course web development and Udemy. And for example, if the person who put the course on Udemy has an organization, you could just put the organization there, right, rather than just add Udemy. So the organization of that person, they now put the course that you studied under that organization. For example, I know of a training organization called, I can't remember, but it's more or less Rule the Room. Yes, Rule the Room. So it's more or less a presentation training, presentation skills training, Rule the Room. So rather than put Udemy, I just put Rule the Room Training Institute, and I put the course I studied on that Rule the Room Training Institute, right? So that's how to put it under your education, right? Also, like I said, if it's not a certification, because that Rule the Room Training Institute that I think I took a course in, they have a certification, right? After you take the course on Udemy, if you want to take the certification, you write an exam, you pay for the exam, and they still, send your hard copy certificates to you, to your address, basically. Now, because the organization has not certified you, it is not a certification. So the organization has to certify you before it becomes a certification, right? So if you took like you said now, took an Oracle course without taking the examination, so what that means is the organization that, what's it called? The organization that stands under Oracle does not, what's it called? Does not certify that you have the skills. So they have to certify that you have the skills before it can be your certification. Do you understand? So it is a skill that you have, yes, so you can put under education, but you're not being certified as one that has it. And that's why many persons go for project management, professional exams, so that they can say they are a PMP, right? Project management professional, right? And they could prove it with the certifications, right? Yep. So basically that's it. Is that clear?
Okay, thank you for that response. So we have more questions coming in. So it says, aside the summary area, where else can we include our professional certifications like that of current NSE and the likes?
So you could have a section in your CV that says certification. So you could add that there, right? So yeah, you could add that there basically. Right? Have a section in your CV that says certifications, and you could add that there, right? And I know other persons also talk about associations that they are in. You're in Korean, you're in an association for training and development, you're in associations, maybe PHRI, right? You could also have that in under certifications, right? You're a member of that community or that association by the certification. So you could add that also there.
Okay, thank you. So another question says, if I have a startup already and I have carried out some projects, can I include that in my experience while trying to apply for a position?
Very well, that's yes, you can. So you did a couple of things, right? So for example, and basically when you're adding it, you should also talk about what in particular. So don't type CEO, right? So what you could always do is just, if you manage the project, you could just, the title could be project manager. If you were the account, if you did accounts, so for example, when you start a startup, you are more likely, you're most likely everywhere. You are taking all the job roles, most likely, right? So you just pick out the job role that applies to the job you're applying for, right? If it's in accounting, if it's in the product management, if it's in the project management, whatever part of the organization which you worked in, which is essential for that job role, make sure you tailor it to the job role.
Okay, super. So I think I would go back to the hands that are raised. Okay, we have one question, one hand raised. I think Balogun Usman, if you can hear me, you can unmute your microphone. And then Oladayo Olasoba next. So Balogun, if you can hear me, you can unmute your microphone.
Sharon, there was one question on the chat box.
Yes, I'm taking the hands that are raised, and then we'll go back to the questions in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. So
Hello,
Balogun, are you? Okay, yes, Balogun, please proceed with your question.
I can't hear
Can I
you.
proceed?
Yes, Balogun, go ahead.
Look, Balogun, I think you can go ahead. Okay, I think any other person with a question?
Okay, I think Oladayo is next. So before Balogun comes up, Oladayo can go next. Then I see Akinwale and I see Abayomi. So Oladayo.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that mind-opening, what they call, exposition regarding writing a CV. My question is not uh, about the what they call, about how to write CV, but basically to just clarify. I think when you sent the message that was sent to us for this meeting, the part of the information on the message was that there will be a pre-assessment form. What is a pre-assessment test? But I was trying to see if I could get maybe it has been sent or something. I didn't see any. So I don't know if it's something that we should will be consequential to what we are doing here. Thank you.
Okay, currently, you should expect additional information that would guide you on all the documents you'd need, all the additional support, visibility for the event, the companies will be participating in a separate email. But also probably the link you might be referring to in terms of the peer assessment will come from Philips Consulting. So that hasn't been shared yet, so just expect that. It's not anything that would affect your participation. It's more or less to kind of get your feedback and also improve the quality of the fair.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you too. So Akinwale, you're up next. Akinwale Akintuaro. Okay.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Ladipo, thanks for that wonderful presentation. It's very, very insightful. I want to ask a question about tailoring your CV to a particular job. You know, at times when you work in some places, probably you might be acquiring similar experience along the line. For example, maybe you are within a particular sector, let's say the oil and gas. Now, this is the part at which you are very, very skillful. Now, which one is better? Probably tailoring your own CV to the skill you have and start looking for job on that line, or probably maneuvering and tailoring your CV, your experience to some other job you are hoping for that is outside the skill you have acquired in your previous job. Which one is better that can help someone's career? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Akinwale. So let me say this. So if you are looking for a job, right? You're looking for let me just go very practical. So you just go to a job site or you get a job vacancy in a particular organization. That organization shows you, oh, this for this job role, these are the requirements, this is what we need the person to have, right? So what you need to do is tailor, if you have all of those skills and all of those things that they have, and you want to take that job, particularly, you would have to tailor your CV to that job, right? Even though if now sometimes it might be a challenge when you have a lot of skills, like it feels like you're higher than the job role. However, it's essential you tailor it to the job role. What you're trying to meet a need in the organization, and what your CV is trying to do is to show that you're able to meet that need in the organization. Right? You could also talk about if you have more experience than that job role is asking for, you could also add that as well. Right? However, every time you see a job vacancy and you want to apply for that job vacancy, it's essential that you tailor it to that job role. Make sure you tailor your CV. Make sure you cut down your CV. Let me say, should I say cut down or build up, whichever way it might be. Make sure you build your CV in relations to the particular job you're applying for. Is that sufficient?
Okay. We also have Abayomi on the call with his hand raised. Please go ahead with your question, and then Pearl, and then IUAG, and then
Yeah,
we'll
good
get back to the
everybody.
comment section for the questions there. Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Good afternoon. Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Oladipo, and thank you very much for your time, Sharon, as well. And Mike, I'm having two questions basically, and the first question goes to Obanu, and the second question goes to Sharon. The first question I want to ask is, you talk about tailoring your CV to a particular job. So I want to ask, can we have a couple of lists? Is it possible to have a couple of lists? I think I lost you when they were talking about that. Can we have a couple of lists of companies that will be available, so that we have an idea what to put on our CVs and all of that? And the second question is this, from the beginning, I had Sharon talking about a pitch. So I want to ask, pitching your ideas, your innovations, and all of that. I want to ask, would there be any chance for pitching of ideas or your innovations? And if there be any needs, would that be necessary to do a presentation, or let me just know, let me grab the whole idea concerning the pitching of the thing. Yeah, thank you very much.
So I think I would respond to the question because both actually I will be able to address. So the first one has to do with information on the companies. Yes, there's a list. We will send that along with the agenda and all the information you need to know regarding communication and visibility, because we will be engaging a lot on social media. So we want everyone to be involved as well as all the partners. So please expect that email. You'd have all that information today unfailingly. And then secondly, yes, to pitch to the companies and everyone there present, including partners and stakeholders, there would be an opportunity which is called Sharks and Dreamers. So Philips Consulting would be facilitating that and give participants an opportunity to make a pitch in front of everyone at the event. So that is why there's that information that will get to you from PCL. So please respond, and then if you have your pitches to make, then you can then be shortlisted to make your presentation on that day. So I hope that clarifies your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. 100%. I appreciate it.
Okay, so Pearl, you're next, and Ayudeji, then we go back to the comment section. We're actually running out of time, so please keep your questions straight and prompt. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, we can hear you.
Okay, my question is as regards tailoring the CV. I understand that we are supposed to tailor our CV to a specific job. So my question now is, for someone who has like two major areas where he has focused. Okay, for instance, I have certifications in networking, but I have experience in research. So I want to tailor his CV to companies coming, and I tailor one CV to research companies and another to networking companies. But the experience will definitely, there will be gaps in the experience, because some areas will be in networking and the other areas will be in research, which I would not want to include in the CV I'm tailoring for one company. So how do we account for those gaps? Because the companies will definitely want to know. So what's the best way to tailor such CV for someone who has a diverse range of fields which he operates in?
All right, thank you for that question. Sorry, excuse me. Okay. So I'm imagining what you're trying to say now. So for example, your first job was in networking, your second job was research, your third job was networking, your fourth job was research. Now, if you want to create two CVs for a research job role and a networking job role, you have job gaps. Is that your question?
Yes.
All right, good. Okay, so the question is, can you explain why you have job gaps? If you can.
First of all, is it acceptable for those gaps? Then how do we explain it?
So there
Or
are
do
two
we
ways
just
to do
put all of them together and just put it?
All right, so if you're applying for a job which is in networking, you put your experience in networking there, right? And what you now do is if you are being interviewed and you're asked questions, why are there gaps? So you would explain, oh, this is why there are gaps. Gaps, I took a trajectory that was outside of networking for a while and I came back, right? And the same thing with research, right? That's the first way to do it. The second way to do it is to include everything in your CV, but make sure that all of the job functions are related to the job functions in the job you're applying for. Now, for example, if you're applying for a job in networking, and I'd like you to just work with me. So give me a brief description of things that you do in networking. I think this will help
Okay.
a couple of people as well.
In net
I don't think we can hear you. Can anyone else hear him?
escalate issues to the engineers, because I'm a network support analyst, so we escalate the issues to the engineers, get feedback from the customers. We troubleshoot issues with customers over calls, help them resolve their issues over calls also.
Okay. All right. So what do you do in research?
In research, I carry out research on projects, basically research, theses, projects, assignments, anything that has to do with research, business proposals, just anything right up.
Okay. So was that a full-time job? Because it seems like it was like a contract job.
No, it's a full-time job.
Okay. All right. So if there are no alignments with the job, the experience, and the new job you want to apply for, then it won't be necessary for you to add it. But you can add it. Now, this is where you might get confused, but don't get confused. You can add it to show that, oh, you were not idle, you were working, you were doing something, but you need to explain why why did you go into this? Why did you go into that? Right? So you can add it, right? But the question is there an alignment between this experience and the job I'm applying for? If there is none, you can remove it or you can keep it there. Right? To just show that you've been working, you've not been idle, you've not been doing anything. But some persons I've seen, they just put everything there and their CV is going to like 3 pages. And that's what you're trying to avoid. Because as a recruiter, if I see your CV is 3 pages, I'm not gonna read 3 pages.
You see, the major reason I'm asking is the issue of where the researcher will say, okay, you didn't divulge information. Because on my LinkedIn profile, I have all the skills, all my experience listed on my LinkedIn profile. But when I tailor a CV, I omit some areas. But my LinkedIn profile is always on all my CVs. So if the recruiter clicks the LinkedIn profile and goes to my page, that sees everything I didn't list in my CV. So I wanted to know your perspective, if that is right or if that is wrong.
I'm back now.
Hello, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so it is right, it's not wrong.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Obanu, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Andrea, I can hear you. So because of time, we want to talk about the elevator pitch. I think we plan to finish by 1.
Okay, so what we can do is, because we still have a couple of hands raised, so please, I'll just advise that you just type in the chat, and then Obanu or myself will try to respond to those questions so that we save time, and then you have the benefits of the next session, which is very critical as well. It has to do with making your pitches. So is that okay, Obanu, that we move?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so okay, please can you mute your microphone? So Andrew, I think you can come up mute and speak. So my colleague Andrew will be speaking on elevator pitches. Is it possible to mute them? All right, so my colleague Andre would be speaking on elevator pitches while I'll be going through questions in the chat. All right, Andre, you can come up right now.
Thank you, Obanu. Please confirm that you can hear me loud and clear.
We can hear you, Andre. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. If you can hear me, just on the chat session, just type loud and clear on the chat section. If you can hear me, everyone, let's do this very fast. If you can hear me, just type loud and clear. Thank you very much. Olasun Bomi. Thank you. So I get a lot of loud and clear. So now I can start. My name is Andre Gabot, and I'm Obanu's colleague, and I'll be spending the next 15 minutes or so talking about elevator speech. So if you're familiar with the elevator speech, I see a lot of loud and clear still coming. It tells that the participants here like to engage. So if you know about the elevator pitch or you are familiar with it, please just type on the chat section familiar. Just type on the chat section familiar. If you're used to elevator pitch, if you know what it is, just type on the chat section familiar. Thank you very much, Falano Moyo. So it's a long name, but I see that you're okay, familiar. Some people are still saying loud and clear from the initial question. Not familiar. So we have a few people who needs to know what an elevator pitch is. Can the participant come off mute? Please confirm. Hi, Sharon, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so I was asking if participants can come off mute and share.
Sorry, your question is to find out if participants can give an idea to what an elevator pitch is?
No. If they can come off mute and share. So I know at one time we muted everyone because some people were not able to mute their mic.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think we're okay to proceed now.
Okay. So I see that there are a few people who are familiar with elevator pitches, and then some other people are not. So I'd like to have Delphine. I hope I got that right. Or let's hear from Falano. Falano, what is elevator pitch? You can come off mute and just share in 30 seconds. or 10 seconds. What is elevator pitch? Okay. I guess Falano is not able to come off mute and share. But again, is there anyone who knows what an elevator pitch is? You can come off mute and share with us.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Carry on.
Okay, this is Moyo talking. Falano. Elevator speech.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, elevator speech is just a concise way of explaining to maybe someone you know. Okay, just a way of explaining and giving a proper structure of what you do, like your name first, and it just takes 1 minute to. It just takes 1 minute, and it's just like saying the summary of your background, like your education, your work experience, and some specialties, your strengths, and also what do you want from the particular company, and maybe your call to action. That's what I can say about it. But I know that it's very concise. You don't spend a long time explaining to a prospect per se.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay. You're breaking. I don't know if it's my network or it's your network, but then I'm struggling to hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Delphine. So an elevator speech is a short description of yourself.
Okay.
A short description of yourself. I can just give an example using myself. My name is Delphine. I'm a procurement specialist.
Okay.
I have 6 years of experience, and I'm looking forward to work with a good procurement firm that will enhance my abilities.
Okay. Thank you, Delphine. Thank you very, very much. So to just build on from where Falan Moyo left it, and also Delphine, an elevator speech is a short video recording of you selling yourself to an employer or a client, right? So you pitch an idea rather than pitch a role. So if you're pitching to get a job, you're pitching an idea about yourself as against pitching the role. So a lot of the times as we engage with young people from time to time, we get people who want to pitch previous experiences. And then at the end of the pitch, they are saying, if you give me an opportunity, right? Your elevator speech is supposed to be that first interaction with an employer, right? There's a very interesting way we like to say it in WAVE, to say that if you meet the highest employer of labor in the world, and then you have just 30 seconds to sell yourself to them, what will you say to them to make them give you their business card to say, let's continue this conversation in my office? What is that one thing that you will say to them, right? Obanu said something very interesting from the start of his session to say, employers will only spend a few seconds looking at your CV. The very first thing they want to see is, are you very organized with your CV? And then they can then narrow down to all of the details you put in that CV. In the same vein, with elevator pitch, you want to put your best foot forward as well. There is something called a hook, right? A hook to a catch, right? What is that first thing that you are saying that will make the employer make that first impression to say, this is the candidate that I want to listen to? What are you saying with your elevator speech that is making the employer or whoever that is going to go look through that video or sit to listen to that pitch say, you know what, we can further this conversation? So your elevator speech have to begin with a hook, a real catch, right? It also has to focus on the big picture, right? It has to focus on the big picture. You need to be able to talk about an idea. As you're pitching to a particular organization, just as Obano had mentioned, tailor the job to the organization, the role, the industry that you would like to work with. It's also very important that you understand all of these things before the pitch. So if you are speaking to the role as an idea to say that you're speaking about how you have solved the problem from a social media perspective for an organization. You're selling that idea to whoever is listening to you as against talking about the role and the opportunity as you would like it based off of the conversation. Please let me know on the chat session if you're following. Just type following on the chat session. Following on the chat session. I need to be sure that I'm heard. I've been having network issues and some technical issues. So I want to be sure that everyone is following. So on the chat session, please type following so that I'm sure that I'm not losing anyone. Following on the chat session. Okay. Thank you. So another thing that you really need to pay attention to with your elevator speech is for you to be confident. You need to be confident. So if it was a physical conversation, your audibility is very important to show that you're confident. If you're speaking under your breath, it means you're not sure of what you're saying or you're trying to hide something, right? People can make assumptions when you are not coming very confident or you're not assertive. So it's important that you are confident, you're assertive, and then you're speaking to the skills and competencies that you have. And one way people can easily make those assumptions is when you are having feelers, right? So you have your words like well, and then you have words like so these are your feelers, right? And then if you use them too much, the employers will begin to, or the person listening to you will begin to make an assumption about you not confident or assertive or not sure about what you are saying. It's important to be mindful of that because you want to sell the most important content to whoever is listening to your pitch. So if you spend some seconds with your space fillers, it allows for people to maybe disengage at some point or not trust the things that you are saying, right? So allow for some breathing spaces. You're not supposed to say everything at once in your elevator speech. You should be able to say enough, just enough, rather than too much or too little, right? So if you have 30 an idea, right? If you have 1 minute to pitch an idea, what can you say in 30 seconds or 1 minute that will generate enough interest for whoever is watching that short video of you selling yourself or talking about your business and what you do? How would that pitch generate enough idea in the head of whoever is listening to say, I have to continue this conversation with this person. So ensure that what you are saying is just enough. You can't say everything at once, but then what you should be the main idea. So it is just enough and not too much information or too little information. The last thing I'd like to talk about with the pitch is don't overpromise or lie. Sometimes in a bid to sell yourself so well to ensure that whoever is listening to you is drawn and attached to the things that you are saying, you want to try to overpromise, right? There's something we say on the promise and over deliver. Don't overpromise. Don't say what you cannot do. I remember like 5 years ago, we had sent a young man for an interview, and then he came back from the interview. And then he said to us that there is a problem, and we were asking at the time, what's the problem? He said he got the job, and we said, so that's good news. So why do you say there is a problem? And then the young man said, everything I said in the interview, I cannot do them. I only learned so much in training how to pitch these things and say these things, but then I can't do them. So it's a problem now that they have offered me the job. Right? You will agree with me that a lot of people can work, but not everybody can communicate or articulate what they can do. And communication is a very, very important part in your job search journey, right? So it's important that you underpromise, right? Don't say too much in your bid to just get the people or the organization or the individual to buy into your idea. Say only what you can do, right? Don't overpromise or lie, right? Keep it simple. Say things that are catchy. Make sure your very first line is a hook. A hook is a catch that makes someone wants to listen to you. You can think about some of the videos on social media. It is the first 10 seconds that you see that make you continue to watch that video. And sometimes you find yourself doing a 10 minutes video from start to finish because that first introduction was very, very good. So pay attention to your beginning, pay attention to your midpoint, because that's where you keep the people engaged, and pay attention to your end. Just like in any story, right? You need to have a great beginning. You need to have that middle point where the people are still interested to know what the end story would be. And you need to have that great end to your story. I just wanted to put this together. I was mindful of the time, but then I just wanted to rush through this to just speak about what an elevator pitch should be and how we can go about it. Another thing is to also go and practice. As you write down your elevator pitch, you have to go and practice looking at the mirror, practice using your phone camera so that you're able to tailor it into a specific time to say that, okay, this is a 30 seconds pitch of me. So if I engage with anyone, I already know what to say in 30 seconds. If it's 10 seconds that I have, I already know what to say. You need to spend time practicing and practicing. Thank you very, very much. I hope I was able to do this in 15 minutes. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer now.
Okay, so thank you so much, Andre, for that very insightful information on getting us ready for elevator pitches. So I'm opening the floor at least for a couple of questions based on what Andre has mentioned. Is there any clarification on or any challenge that you might have had? Just a quick chat, drop the question in the chat, or you can just indicate by raising your hand. We can quickly address that and conclude for the day. Because I think this would allow us some time. Hopefully the information will get to you very soon. Like I said in the beginning, on the agenda, the company's present, and all the information you have received here to help you really do some changes where necessary to your CVs and come ready and armed to engage with the company. So I think I can see a question here saying, please kindly give us an example. So Andre, they're asking for an example of an elevator pitch. Or should I say show? Sorry, I can't pronounce the first name, but I saw Oriade Adeoye. She's asking if you have an example. So I'm thinking of an elevator pitch. Andrea, are you there?
Sure, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm mindful. I'm usually mindful with examples because a lot of the times some persons will take those examples and make it their own and make it look like it's the perfect example for every pitch. But key things to note, right? You can start um, with a hi or hello, and then go on to introduce yourself. Because your pitch is usually very short. It's not enough time, like in the interview when you have that blank check to say, "Can I meet Charles? Can tell us about yourself? Who is Chinwo?" Right? So you have that time to really say a bit more. But with your pitch, you want to keep your introduction very, very brief and talk about the key things. You can start with a powerful quote that is tied to that individual or what that individual does or the organization. You can start with a powerful quote. You can talk about statistics. You can talk about a problem that say this is a tech company. You can talk about the problem they are trying to solve and then what the numbers are saying. That can be your introduction. And then you can then go on to talk about the things that you have done in that space that should make them like you. So why me, right? Amongst all the other people in the world, why should I be the candidate you should be engaging with after now? You can talk about why me, and then if you already know the organization you're relating with directly, you can be speaking about them, because everybody likes to know that the people that want to come into their space have an idea of what they do and you are thinking about solving a problem for them. But that's only when you already know that this speech is tailored for this particular individual or this organization. But then if you don't have that situation, go ahead to start with the introduction, talk about something very interesting that ties into your skills and competencies. Go on to then speak about how you have solved problems, just like Obanu guided us through the achievement-based CV. Talk about something significant that you have done for your previous employer that you know that if you say it anywhere, people are going to want to listen to you or give you a chance. Go on to put that there, and then at the very end, thank whoever is listening to that pitch, and then you can close from there. I don't know if I was able to answer your question like a real guide or step-by-step process to your pitch.
Okay, this is hoping that at least that answers, it gives a guide so that you can then form or be able to create your own content, and hopefully we'll also have the team on ground to give you some feedback. Perhaps you'd want to do a little quick check-in with them when you're at the venue. They'll be there, all of them from the team from Wave. I think Obani would also be there. So I really like to thank you all. We're really trying to work towards ensuring that we maximize time. So it's 1 o'clock already. We've been here for 2 hours. And I'm hoping that you have all had at least something out of this session. Exactly. Ebehi has mentioned that you could also look up some examples online, just Google it, try to watch some videos perhaps, really just do a little research of your own from what you've heard here from the team. The presentation has been really rich. I can say that I have also picked a thing or two from here. And I'm hoping to really engage with you all by Tuesday. But like I said again, just to reiterate, please a little group. So it would be
Sorry,
a
hear you.
WhatsApp. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we couldn't hear you for just a bit. You said you wanted to reiterate, but that's where it's stopped. So maybe what you wanted to say, if you could just say it again.
Okay, thank you, Zafira. So yes, so I was saying we would send an email after the meeting. So please look into your, whether it is spam email, sometimes it goes to your junk. Please check for your email. So today you would receive it unfailingly. We are with the agenda, list of companies, really, and another information will be coming to you from PCL. Please engage with the link. It's there will be some guidelines on how to fill out the link that will be shared. Please ensure you're able to do that before the event, because a lot of interaction will be done virtually from the PCL side of things. So please also be aware of that. Now, again, like I said in the beginning, we have two groups of people here, both for Abuja and Lagos. For Abuja, you will receive information more detailed for the Abuja Fair. We decided to use this as an opportunity where everyone is together in the room, and you can also seize the opportunity to prepare well ahead for next week. So we will share the information for Abuja as well. For Lagos, we're all set for Tuesday, and we'll meet at Landmark Event Center. Please be on time. It's very important that we are all on time. So we would also create a group, a WhatsApp group, to have everyone in, because you all shared your numbers, so that we'll be able to drop information quickly. And then there's some lingering questions here that haven't been answered. We try to look through and then drop those responses there. So expect an invitation to that, or we'll drop a link rather, then you can just join the WhatsApp group. So I think we can then call it a day. So thank you again so much to Obanu, Andre, Ebehi. Thank you so much to your team for the support on this project. Thank you so much to all the attendees who have sat through 2 hours of this informative session, and we're hoping that this would yield to fruitful outcomes. So I look forward to meeting and interacting with each and every one of you. Our colleagues from NESP would also be at the venue to guide you. So yes, for the virtual participation, we will share a link. So for those who, for instance, maybe are running late, would like to join, others who are not even able to be selected for the event, we'll be joining virtually for the conference and master class sessions only. The B2B sessions are limited to just company interaction. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. So you'll be hearing from us. Take care and bye.
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 Okay, bye.
Goodbye, and thank you for everyone for joining.